I'ma keep it a bean. Stick to the script, every scene. This from last year, but they clean. Say to say, I'ma take something else, but it's winning team. Charlie Sheen, fam gang, the regime. I'm from Piney Green.
This been overdue forever. Asked me when it was dropping, said never. Should've made you cut the feather, but I designed it Freemason Margiela.
What's good, Shellitronnn here, the most woke, no joking. I'm back again with a brand new video, and today I want to talk about a topic that I'm very sure will split the fan base in half on two different topics, but this is a topic that I think needs to be talked about for a number of different reasons. And if you're one of the people who like to comment on videos before you actually watch the video, just this once, try to watch the whole thing because I want to get to a lot of different points here, and it may take the whole video to get my full explanation out before I can actually paint the whole picture of my mindset on this topic here. And I think by the end of the video, I've answered all the questions, and you may have a different opinion by the time I'm actually done explaining myself, or maybe not. If you're not, I see you right now already typing a comment out based off the thumbnail and the title, so, I mean, do what you're gonna do. Anyway, my point here, my overarching point I'm gonna make here is that the 2019 season may just be a prove-it year for Cam Newton, and that the Carolina Panthers may be thinking about moving on, or maybe considering putting pieces in place to move on for life after Cam, even as soon as this upcoming season. Now, why do I say that? Let me back up a little bit here and paint the picture of, I guess, the more recent history of the Panthers, Cam Newton, and what the thought process is with the team possibly picking up a backup quarterback in this draft, and why I think that even though I have the thoughts I have about maybe the team moving on from Cam possibly, why the team should not pick up a backup quarterback in this draft. First off, let's start with the deals and the quarterbacks that are on our team right now. Right now, we have 3 quarterbacks on our team. 2 guys are on 1-year deals, they're backups, and Cam's on a 2-year deal. Well, he has 2 more years left on this deal. Let's talk about Taylor Heinicke and Kyle Allen. Taylor Heinicke and Kyle Allen are both on 1-year deals, but neither one of them is a long-term backup quarterback for the team. Now, I do have a lot of faith in both these guys as viable backups. I like both these guys, but the point of the matter is both cannot be long-term backup quarterbacks, basically just because of how old they are, how long they've been in the league so far, and because the way the salary works out in the NFL, the guys who've been in the league longer are making a lot more money, and you don't really want to put a lot of money into a third-string quarterback. You know, you don't want to put $1 million a year into a guy you're going to keep giving 1-year deal after 1-year deal. Neither one of these guys is going to get any deal that's longer than 2 years. And if they do get a deal that is 2 years, it's going to be a 2-year deal with a team option after the first year, making it effectively just another 1-year deal. These guys are not long-term kind of guys. I know for a fact that both these guys will not be on the team after this upcoming season. Not like both of them will be gone. I mean, we won't have both Kyle Allen and Taylor Heinicke on the team after this season. One of these guys is going to be gone. I don't really have a deep preference one over the other. I mean, obviously Kyle Allen's stats in a bubble are better than Taylor Heinicke's, but honestly, I don't really want to really evaluate either one of these guys, because even when the two got into playing actual NFL games, not just preseason games versus, the 2s and 3s of other teams, there wasn't really the actual pressures of being a backup quarterback. It wasn't like it was week 10 or week 12 where a backup comes in and there's actual pressure to win games because you want to keep your team afloat. You have to, stay up, and maybe if you have 3 weeks of gameplay, you want to win at least 2 of those games. When the starter comes back in, the team is still upright. You can still make a push to the playoffs. When Taylor Heinicke and Kyle Allen got opportunities to play this year, the team was out of the playoffs. Now, we weren't technically and, mathematically eliminated out of the playoffs, but I think every single Panthers fan, and really anyone who ever watched a football game ever in their life, if they saw the situation the Panthers were in this season, once, Kyle Allen and Taylor Heinicke actually got starts, they understood that, we were not going to go to the playoffs. And even if we did make the playoffs, even if we did eke out that last wild card spot, we were not going to win a game in the playoffs. The NFC was actually just way too strong this year. Both sides just way too strong. I did not see us winning a playoff game, even if we did get the playoffs this year. It just was not happening. And in the same vein of that thought process of not having that much, pressure to actually win games and pressure to perform very, very well, there may have actually been some pressure in the back of these guys' mind to maybe lose some of these games, because if we're not making the playoffs, then there's no point in actually winning these games. And if we lose these games, we set up the team for a better position in the draft for the upcoming season, meaning this 2019 draft. And I know what I can see the comments already, and I've been seeing the comments, and I saw the comments a lot in January and December when it actually happened, how the team should have lost Week 17 versus the Saints. People who say that, first off, if you're still on that tip, bro, let it go. It's been 4 months. Look, you gotta let it go. Live it in the present right now. You can't change the past. Live in the now, and let's try to, move forward with the pick that we have. If you can't move past it, you like living in the past, then rewatch that game and then come back and explain to me how the Panthers could have lost that game. I mean, would you have not started the starters? I don't think we started any starters. Christian McCaffrey was in for one drive. I don't think that was really a really big effective part of the game there. Was the O-line great? I don't think so. I'm not really sure if DJ Moore played more than a couple snaps in that game. Defensive-wise, we didn't really have that many guys who were actually starters. We didn't really play all that well. I mean, Colin Jones got a pick in that game. That's what happened. But then again, look at the Saints. The Saints defense wasn't really playing all that hard. Those guys weren't really all starters. They were not really caring all that much. And the Saints offense, Teddy Bridgewater. Watch Teddy Bridgewater play against our defense. The guy had to get 17 yards in the game to get Michael Thomas to the 1,400-yard mark for the season. And it took him, maybe 4 or 5 minutes into the fourth quarter to get Michael Thomas a total of 17 yards in that one game. And Teddy Bridgewater had actual pressure. He wanted to look good. That was his one start of the season. He wanted to have a good showing so he could prove to everyone out there, especially other teams, that he was still Teddy Bridgewater and he could perform. Teddy Bridgewater played horribly in that game. He was missing Michael Thomas on wide open routes, overthrowing him, looking him off. There were times when, he got picked off by Colin Jones. He got picked off. What can I say? Just watch that game again. I don't want to go too deep into it. I've already gone way too deep into it already. But watch that Saints game. If you're still on that tip and say we should have lost that game, watch that Saints game and then tell me, report back what the team could have done to actually lose that game. Moving on to more important things here. So we already have 2 backup quarterbacks who are signed through this year who can come in and play if something happens to Cam. Cam still has 2 years on his contract, and you think to yourself, okay, well, that's not really a prove-it year if Cam still has 2 years on his contract, right? That doesn't make any sense. He still has another year to prove it. Well, maybe not. If you pay attention to the way that teams treat their quarterback contracts, you'll notice that most teams with franchise quarterbacks do not allow their franchise quarterback to ever play in the last year of their contract without reworking it, without getting an extension, without doing something to make sure that these quarterbacks do not ever get a chance to bet on themselves. And, if they get into the season and they actually have a really great year, then other teams with presumably more cap space in them can actually swoop them up. Because let's be honest, there's a good chance the Panthers will not have the most cap room of every single team. But you just don't like to have your quarterback play on their very last year of their contract because there's a lot of desperate teams out there. If you're above a certain line of quarterback skill, you're a franchise quarterback. You don't have to be a top 3, top 5, top 10 guy. It's very hard to find a franchise quarterback. Teams will spend decades looking for a franchise quarterback. Don't believe me? There's plenty of examples around the league right now. I don't have to name them for you right now. There are plenty of examples of teams who haven't had a real, true, defined franchise quarterback on their team in a long, long time. They may have had kind of good quarterbacks, may have serviceable quarterbacks, guys who can throw the ball, but not exactly franchise, full of confidence kind of guys. You can spend a lot of time looking for a franchise quarterback, and that's why a lot of teams do not let their franchise quarterback that they're very confident in get into their last year of their contract because they do not want to get in a situation where they're betting against their quarterback and let's just see how it works out. And then it works out and the quarterback dips because he notices that, hey, this is not what happens to other quarterbacks. Oh, you didn't believe in me? All right, bet. I'm going to go ahead and do what I can do. And I know there's someone out in the league. There's 31 other teams out there. I guess maybe let's call it 15 other teams that need quarterbacks that they might appreciate what I can do. And they could probably offer me a little bit more money than this team right here. So, hey, I'm going to be out of here. That is a very real possibility here. But the reason I think the team should spend this year with 2 years out being the prove-it year for Cam Newton is because of 2 big things. The first being his recent injury history, probably the most important and most dangerous injury history a quarterback can have, and that's an injury on his throwing shoulder. It started 2 years ago. He got a surgery. Last year, it got re-aggravated. You do not want to have 3 straight seasons of having a quarterback with shoulder injury issues. Look, at a certain point, we all love Cam. You're not going to find a lot of people who love Cam more than I do. But even I understand that as a front office, as a business whose main job is to win football games, Giving a guy who has had 3 straight years, possibly, this is assume he maybe gets his shoulder injured again this season and he can't prove it. You may not be all that willing to give that guy 5 years, $120+ million guaranteed, because that's about where the quarterback market is headed. That's a very tough sell if Cam were to get injured again this season. And then you think about his completion rate. Now look, I know in his 8 years in the league, there's a lot of things you can contribute his poor completion rate to. First of all, Mike Shula's terrible offense that was very predictable and kind of just bad. You can talk about how the team didn't really have that many weapons around him. I mean, we had Steve Smith for 2 years, only really 1 good year at that. We had KB. He had a couple good years for the team, but he was the only real target. Funches didn't really work out the way we really wanted him to. And only just now, just this past year, we actually have really good, workable components around Cam, weapons around Cam that can really function the way that we really needed to in the pass game. Also, we had Greg Olsen, but you don't really want an aging tight end to be your most dependable receiver on the team. We love Greg Olsen. I mean, we love Greg a lot, but that's not really what you want your team to be really built upon. You can have a good tight end be the centerpiece of your passing offense, but he's kind of getting older and he's been having some injuries as well. But look, 8 years in the league, 59.7% completion rate overall, and only 3 years in his 8 years where he's been over 60% completion rate. And 60% completion rate isn't like a good completion rate. That's like baseline. 60% completion rate is really where people start to say, okay, you're an NFL quarterback. You should be doing that. That's like getting a C on a test in high school. People expect you to at least be able to get 60% completion rate. And even when you do factor in the whole thing about Mike Shula's offense, you know, the weapons and all this other stuff, maybe the O-line not being all that great for some years, can you honestly say that 100% of the accuracy issues have been on Mike Shula, the receivers, and the O-line? Are you saying that Cam Newton has always been a spectacularly accurate quarterback and it's just been those things outside of his game that contribute to him having a season where he threw 52.9%, 57.7%, 58.5%? We all understand that sometimes, even recently, Cam has overthrown receivers that have been wide open, way over their heads. Sometimes his outside throws can be thrown kind of out to the sideline. And I especially remember some of his deep sideline fade throws, sometimes floating to the inside, more toward the numbers than the actual sideline. This was especially true in 2017. I saw that happen a lot, man. Sometimes in 2016 as well, but more so 2017, 2 years ago. I watched that happen a lot. So even though we do know there are other factors working into the scheme of things, we all can understand and acknowledge that Cam has not been, you know, the shining star of accuracy in the NFL. We understand that. And I'll say it again, 60% is not a good completion rate. That is the absolute baseline that people say, look, okay, yeah, you're an NFL quarterback. Complete 60% of your passes. And for his career, 8 years, 59.7 is not good. And this is what I mean when I say that this year can possibly be a prove-it year for Cam. The Panthers should not pick up a quarterback in this year's draft because the sweet spot for this year's draft for us picking up a quarterback would be probably around pick number 100 or pick number 115, you know, our last third-round pick or our fourth-round pick. That's about where we're projected to pick up a quarterback if we do go back up quarterback this season. My thought process is, if Cam does well this year and there's nothing to worry about, we can, you know, give him an extension and say, okay, Cam definitely did prove it. He's shown that he has grown, and all he needed was his one offseason to really get his shoulder worked out again. Everything's fine. Give him the full extension. We can go third or fourth round quarterback next year. We already, like I said, have 2 backup quarterbacks that are pretty good in my opinion on the roster this year. We should be straight without having another long-term quarterback. We don't need to have 4 QBs on the list for this year. And I mean, I'm all 100% okay with keeping Kyle Allen and Taylor Heineke for this season. But if Cam does not have a great year this season and the team starts thinking about, well, maybe we should plan on and start thinking about life after Cam, then next year you can go second round quarterback pick. You can pick up a quarterback in the second round much earlier, and I think that next year's quarterback class is going to be a lot better than this year's, especially in the second round. There are guys in this year's draft who could probably go in the second round, but will most likely fall to number 77. Like Will Grier could possibly fall to 77. I saw some mock drafts where people picked Will Grier in the second. That's a reach. Don't do that. Even if you do pick him in the second, I mean, just if you wanted him, there's going to be quarterbacks in next year's draft better than Will Grier, who are going to be available in the second round. So I think if you really want to find your backup quarterback, a long-term backup, who can maybe even start maybe a little bit sooner than the schedule might suggest, depending on, how Cam plays, picking up a guy in the second round in next year's quarterback class may end up being a little bit better for us. I got this idea from watching how the Cowboys addressed the whole Dak Prescott issue because, they weren't 100% sure, is Dak Prescott really our franchise quarterback? We're not 100% sold on exactly, is our success going to be based on Dak? I mean, we have an O-line. We got Zeke. They said, okay, how about this? They went out and got the old O-line coach back. The O-line's pretty solid there. They have a great running back. They went out and got Amari Cooper for a first-round pick. They gave him a number 1 receiving option. So he's surrounded by options and weapons on offense. They went out and got him a defense. The Cowboys' defense is top of the line, man. They're like top 5, I would say, from last year. They may even come back and be top 5 again this year. They basically said, let's go ahead and isolate everything around Dak Prescott. Make sure that everything around him is solid and is actually really good so we can actually evaluate 100% how does Dak Prescott play when there's no excuses from anything else all around him. We gave you everything you needed from your side of the ball to the opposite side of the ball to the coaching staff around you. We need to find out exactly how you play. I think this year's draft, do not pick up a quarterback in the 3rd or 4th round. Pick up a weapon for him. Pick up someone on the defense who can, have an impact this season and find out how does Cam play? Is he healed? Can he stay healthy for the full 16? Get to the playoffs. Make sure there's no excuses, no questions that can be asked of anything around Cam so you know for a fact that what you're seeing from Cam is what you're probably going to be getting in the future. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I'm going to end on this. I 100% hope Cam has a great year. I want Cam to be the face of this franchise. I want Cam to be like, when you think of the Colts, you think Peyton Manning. When you think of the Bears, I'm kind of younger, so I think Brian Urlacher. When you think of, the Patriots is more recent, but you think Bill Belichick, Tom Brady. I can go on and on, but I want Cam to be the face that people think about in 10, 15, 20 years. You say Carolina Panthers, you think Cam Newton. No questions asked. Cam Newton is the face of the Panthers on and off the team when he retires. But it's a business, and when you think about it, you have to think about how the team is going to be. I think if the team really wants to, evaluate how Cam is and, have the best plan of action for the future of the team, you do not pick up a quarterback in this year's draft. You do that next year after you evaluate how he does this year with all the parts around him being secure and there's no questions asked about anything else around him. If he plays poorly, go after a quarterback in the second round. If he plays well, get a QB in the 3rd or 4th next year. No harm, no foul. Either Taylor Heineke or Kyle Allen's going to be gone next year. So we can have one of those guys still. Nothing's going to be really affected by it. And we can actually project how the future of the Panthers is going to be moving forward. That's my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on it? I don't want to lead any questions on. I know you have a lot of comments that you're already typing right now. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to support the channel without spending any money, go down to the pinned comment below. That takes all of 10 seconds. Sign the petition, man. It would really mean a lot to me. And as always, you already know to do that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Been told y'all I been the man. Been told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.